All right, a little louder. Good evening, everyone.
Anything in here I need to take with me?
Okay, Adam, would you like to lead us in a prayer?
Hello, my name is Dr. Adam Block. I'm the preacher at Ridgeview Christian Church, and I'm very appreciative that you allow the Raleigh Area Ministerial Alliance to pray to open these meetings. So if you would, please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, whose name is holy, I pray that your kingdom comes and that your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Because I ask for your will to be done on earth, I make the humble request that it begins in our fair town and city of Rolla, Missouri. I ask that Rolla and its leadership be a part of the salt of the earth, giving flavor to the life around us. I ask that Rolla and its leadership be filled with light, bringing clarity to the situations in which we find ourselves in this fallen world. Please give this city its daily bread. Provide that which Rolla needs. So God, I ask that you grant these city council members and other positions of authority an immeasurable dose of your wisdom so that righteousness and justice reign in Rolla. You've granted them authority, and so God, I pray that the new council that will be formed this evening finds itself working alongside of your will. We know that we reap what we sow, so help our leadership and the city to sow the seeds of love and joy and peace and patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. God, I also ask that you forgive us our debts and that we may forgive those who have sinned against us. Lead Rolla and its leaders and its citizens not into temptation. Deliver this city from evil. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. I pray this in the name of Jesus the Christ, my Savior and Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
I'd like to officially open the meeting. Lister, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a lot of visitors tonight. Welcome. Format of the meeting tonight, the change of council will occur after the subjects dealing with old business. So I don't want to say old council, they might take exception to that, but the veteran council, very good, very good. So with that, starting with old business, the first item is an ordinance authorizing me to enter an agreement with Donald Magi Construction. Darren?
So at the last meeting, council awarded bid to low bidder Don Magi Incorporated for project 493 Oak Street improvements. Is that better?
Yeah.
So tonight we're asking for the final reading of the ordinance to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with Donald Magi for $312,894.50. Any questions?
Any questions for Darren? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
You have those, Lori?
Do I need to do
Yes.
okay. Before the break?
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Raleigh, Missouri to execute on behalf of the city of Raleigh, Missouri a certain agreement between the city of Raleigh, Missouri and Donald Magi, Inc.
For the record, who was the motion and who was the second?
Yeah.
I was there.
Okay.
He was first, I think. Rachel.
Okay. Roll call vote?
Everly,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Boland,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Bruder,
Yes.
Muse,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Lyons,
Yes.
Crowell,
Yes.
Schott,
Yes.
Florence,
Yay.
12 ayes.
Ordinance is approved. The next item is an ordinance authorizing me to enter an agreement with Donaldson Construction. Darren?
So at the last meeting, council awarded the bid for the 2021 microservicing project 522 to Donaldson Construction Company out of Clever, Missouri. So tonight staff's requesting the final reading of an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter a contract with Donaldson Construction for $464,800.72. Any questions?
Any questions for Darren? If not, can we have the final reading?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor, City of Rolla, Missouri, to execute on behalf of the City of Rolla, Missouri, a certain agreement between the City of Rolla, Missouri and Donaldson Construction Company, LLC, for 2021 surfacing Project 522.
Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second.
Carolyn and Matthew? Roll call vote, please.
Schneider,
Yes.
Florence,
Yay.
Reuter,
Yes.
Boland,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Schott,
Yes.
Crowell,
Yes.
Mush,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Everly,
Yes.
Lyons,
Yes.
12 ayes.
Ordinance is approved. The next item is an ordinance authorizing me to enter an agreement with Donald Maggai for the University Drive project. Steve?
Yes, sir. At our last meeting, the item was discussed, working on behalf of the Rolla Transportation Development District. We asked for bids on University Drive realignment. The City Council awarded that bid to Don Maggai, Inc. for the asphalt option for $2,884,920.92. We also had the first reading of the ordinance, and we are recommending a final reading of that ordinance tonight.
Any questions for Steve? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Wait, well, hold on, motion tonight, I don't know why. Sorry.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor, City of Rolla, Missouri, to execute on behalf of the City of Rolla, Missouri, a certain agreement between the City of Rolla, Missouri and Donald Maggai, Inc.
Move
I'd like to
proposed
make a
ordinance
motion.
pass.
Second.
Motion by John, second by Carolyn, roll call vote.
Schott,
Yes.
Mush,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Boland,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Reuter,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Lyons,
Yes.
Crowell,
Yes.
Everly,
Yes.
Florence,
Yay.
12 ayes.
Ordinance is approved. Last item under old business is a motion to approve selling some assets through Gov Deals. John?
Yeah, so we have, over the last 6 months, sold about $68,000 worth of items on Gov Deals or Purple Wave. The largest of that is $42,000 plus, which came on the result of an environmental services roll-off truck. So for purposes of documenting the release of these assets, we bring this back to the council once or twice a year to just ratify the actions that have been taken. So we're submitting that list for your review and approval.
Any questions for John? If not, is there a motion to approve the sales?
Make a motion. Second.
Motion made by Carolyn, second by Rachel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is approved. Next item is a consent agenda. We were looking for a motion to accept the April 16th certified election results. John?
Yeah, as you can see in the packet, there were a total of 1,949 votes cast in the council election. That's a little under 12%, which is not great, but it is what it is with folks being engaged in the local political process. So we get this information from the county clerk who runs elections in the county, and she has certified these election results for your approval.
I move that we accept the election results.
Second.
Motion by Matt, second by Carolyn? Or Jody? Who? Carolyn. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is approved. The next section is our transition of city council. I'd like to make a few comments about those that will be leaving us. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize councilpersons Schneider, Crowell, Schott, Mush, Reuter, and Allen. All of these people worked very hard for the citizens of Rolla. For 3 of them in their first term, there was a lot of issues to deal with while going through on-the-job training. During their term, the city initiated, amongst other things, the large $28 million upgrades to the wastewater treatment plants, the nearly finished rebuilding of Kings Highway, and soon to start the rerouting of University Drive. These last 2 projects in excess of $10 million will help our employers significantly improve traffic flow and the aesthetics of Rolla. This group was not afraid to discuss the ramifications of medical and recreational marijuana, even though it was not a widely popular issue. They felt it was important enough to some citizens that the willingness to be responsive was reason enough. Speaking of difficult decisions this past year has made COVID a challenging issue across a wide spectrum. The financial impacts on the city, the health and welfare of our citizens, the potential impact on our local health care system, and the very emotional issue of personal rights and how that interfaces with such things as occupancy restrictions and the use of facial coverings. In the early stages of COVID, little was known by us and others, which also made this a challenging topic for them to address. This group worked hard, prepared for every issue, and was not afraid to make difficult and sometimes unpopular decisions. It's often been said that the most popular decision is not always the best, and the best decision is not always the most popular. I know I've come to appreciate this saying in my time with the city government. The citizens of Rolla were well served by this group, and on behalf of them, I would like to sincerely thank each of them for their service. We hope that they will continue in another capacity in the years to come. Thank you. If you would, I would like to meet some of you up here for a final recognition.
Somewhere else, Andrew?
No, I think that one.
Yep.
No, me too.
Christine? Where are you? My wife, you know.
Yeah. I can put it next to my grandfather's 27-year shirt. School board, city council, mayor.
America, have you on the count of three.
I spelled it wrong? Oh.
Everybody get your bubble wrap.
Gotta give you a good picture.
Alrighty. On the count of three. 1, 2, and 3. A couple more.
I'm smiling.
We can see your eyes.
I'm in the middle. Probably oh, they are.
No.
Now the transition, the swearing in of our newly elected officials. Will you please come forward? Mariah, Megan, Matt, Rob, and Stanley, and Victoria. Got a lot of family members here that are proud of you.
Do you want us to put a mask on?
When you're up here.
Should we? Yeah.
We are. Look at that.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna do everybody at the same time, okay? I state your name. Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and that I will faithfully demean myself
and I will faithfully demean myself
in the office of Ward,
in the office of Ward 2,
for which I was elected,
for which I was elected
on the 6th day of April,
on the 6th day of April,
2021.
2021.
Thank you all, don't run off. So let's start with, you'll just sign right there. And then you're gonna sign my book as well. I'll finish the Thank you so much. Megan? I'm gonna sign right here. In my book right here. Right here? Oh, you're left-handed. Yeah. Right. Okay, no problem. Sign. Right here.
Okay.
And this one.
Okay, right here.
Very good. Messenger?
Oh, it's going. It's a Monday. I gotta say though, I saw that we didn't have anything for closed session.
Well, you know, just went 1 through 6.
I was like, oh. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you. And sign right here. And right here.
Yep, those are
Your turn. Let me see your hair.
Am I going the wrong way?
No.
Well,
I don't want to get run out.
You're gonna get that.
If I get run out the first night, I...
Day one.
Lester, it's good to see you.
yes.
Thank you. Good nudge me if I do anything wrong.
That's one. Thank you.
Well, this will probably be the easiest meeting of your tenure.
No, you don't sign it.
Don't jinx it.
Reality check. Let's see if they clap in a few meetings from now. Okay, next section is acknowledgement and special presentations. We do not have any tonight. Public hearings, we do have one. It's an ordinance rezoning 512 East 18th Street. Tom?
I guess I get to go first. Hello, Tom Coots, I'm the city planner. Just first off, since half of you are new to all this, if you want to come in and meet with us there at the Community Development Department, feel free to come down and can talk to you about whatever you want to talk about having to do with the planning and zoning and building code and all that type of stuff. What we have here is it's a rezoning case. As he said, 512 East 18th Street. Property is highlighted on the map. The property has an existing building on there, parking lot. The property is currently zoned M2, which is the heavy manufacturing zoning district. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to the C3 highway commercial zoning district. The reason for the request is the applicant is seeking to put in kind of a batting baseball training type facility. Basically, they would rent the building out to a baseball team who would use the building for practice and whatnot. The issue is that that type of use is something that should be in a commercial zoning district. The industrial zoning districts don't allow for a lot of the commercial type uses, and commercial districts don't allow for a lot of industrial type uses. So they need to rezone the property to do this. Property is surrounded by other properties that are zoned M2. Also, there are some properties in the area that are zoned C3, which is the same as the property being requested. In particular, the property adjacent to it to the north is the Phelps County Ambulance Barn, and that was rezoned a few years ago to the C3 district. The street view of the property from 18th Street, kind of what's important, this picture was taken a few years ago. If you drive out there now, there's a lot more kind of gravel. The property was paved at one point, but paving is, you know, there's a lot of gravel on the property, but the property was paved at one point. The applicant was going to do some work on it. In the future, if the property becomes more of a retail type use, that sort of thing, where there's more people, the general public coming and going, they're probably going to want to make some upgrades to that. Just to summarize, the commercial use is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan recommends community commercial type uses in the area. You notice there is some residential uses kind of nearby, and there's this industrial area kind of in between. 18th Street didn't used to go through across the railroad tracks, so this was kind of a dead end part of town, and so it was, at that time, it was a good idea for industrial uses, but things are kind of transitioning away from that currently, and it's a lot more visible now. So the comprehensive plan recommended moving more toward commercial uses. There is other C3 zoning in the area. Industrial type zoning may be actually kind of incompatible with the surrounding uses. If somebody were to come in and try to do some of the things that are allowed in the M2 district, there's some things that are allowed that you probably wouldn't actually want to happen there. This is part of a larger area which may need to be rezoned in the future. You're going to hear maybe next month about a neighborhood plan have been working on for this neighborhood. And one of the things that's actually recommended in that neighborhood plan is to kind of rezone this area from the industrial to more toward a commercial district. So at some point in the future, there may be a city-initiated rezoning to rezone this area as well. The Planning and Zoning Commission did hear this request last week and did recommend approval with a vote of 5-0. Do you have any questions for me before we move to the public hearing?
Any questions for Tom? Okay, we'll circle back for another round of questions later, but at this point, I would like to officially open the public hearing. Is there anyone that owns property? You just waving, or? Okay. Now you fogged up my glasses.
Not that serious.
Oh, what happened again? Hold on. Is there anyone that owns property within 185 feet of this proposed zoning that would like to speak for the rezoning? Is there anyone that owns property outside of the 185 feet would like to speak against the rezoning? Is there anyone that owns property within the 185 feet that would like to speak against the rezoning? And finally, is there anyone that owns property outside of the 185 feet? I think I said out the last time. So in this case, would they want to speak for the rezoning? If not, this closes the...
Now I am raising my hand.
Okay, which category are you in?
Out.
Okay.
I'm Johnny Jones. I live at 206 Brook Ridge here in Rolla. I'm for this because we do have a lot of players, both boys and girls, who needs a place to practice indoors during winter time. It's just we don't have too many places around here to have boys and girls who needs to practice indoors, because a lot of these kids are serious about getting scholarships and full rides to college and stuff, and we don't live in the South where you can practice all year round outdoors. So we need more facilities than what we already have. So they have, because sometimes it's hard to get indoor cages. I've even run into that problem myself with my son. So more buildings that we can have to have these batting cages and facilities to practice in would be nice.
Thank you, Johnny. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to council? In which case, the public hearing is closed. Any other questions from council members? If not, can we have the first reading?
Yes. An ordinance to approve the rezoning of 512 East 18th Street from M2 Heavy Manufacturing to C3 Highway Commercial District.
Okay. Thank you for that, John. Yeah, I don't know how familiar some of the new council people are with the procedures, but there's a first and second reading process with the 2 weeks in between. There are cases where you could waive those rules. We suggest that you do those very judiciously and not make those a habit, but there are some times when we, quite frankly, need something done that shouldn't have to wait 2 weeks. So this will come back. Tom will give you sort of a slimmed-down version of what he gave you the first time, and then again, of course, you have questions and then take action. Thank you, John. Moving on to new business, the first item is an ordinance to approve a minor subdivision, which is the final plat of the Drury development.
Yes, applicant is Drury Development Corporation for Drury Development Addition. Property is highlighted on the map. This is at the corner of Highway 63, or Bishop Avenue, and I-44. You may recognize this as having the Steak and Shake and the Pear Tree Inn. Basically, the request is to subdivide this property into 2 lots. Right now, it's one big lot with all that on it, plus a cell tower and a billboard. Basically, a lot with a restaurant, a lot with a hotel, and everything else on it. Property does have a split zoning on it. Part of the property is zoned C2, general retail. The rest of the property is zoned M2, which is the heavy manufacturing district. Most likely, there will be a need for them to come back before you at some point to rezone parts of the property to something else if they go to redevelop the property, because the M2 district doesn't allow for some of the things that probably would happen on this property. This is the plat. As I said, basically it's 2 lots. I should point out that lot 2, the big lot, it doesn't. I mean, it has frontage in I-44. I don't know if that counts or not, but usually when we're subdividing property, the lots are required to have frontage on a road. This one is basically it's served by an easement. That is allowed for commercial properties. For residential properties, they're required to have an amount of frontage on a road. Just to summarize, this would create 2 commercial lots. It'll allow for the existing buildings to be sold on separate lots. It appears to be in compliance with all requirements. I should say that they're in talks to sell the lots, but nothing has been finalized, so I can't say that what's going to happen with the properties in the future at this point. Planning and Zoning Commission did hear this request at the last meeting and did recommend approval with a vote of 5-0. Do you have any questions for me before the ordinance reading?
Ann?
Are there any suggestions or ideas that you know of that might be developed in that area? And how easily would that be developed, that land?
As far as, I mean, no, I probably couldn't say exactly what would happen. Like as I said, I know 1 lot is being looked at. Can't say if that's going to happen. The rest of the property is fairly large. I mean, the door's open for what could happen there. I can say that I highly doubt that somebody who's going to come in and want to do manufacturing, industrial type use of that property. So it's pretty likely they're going to come back to rezone it to allow for something else.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Tom? If not, can we have the first reading?
An ordinance to approve the minor subdivision final plat of Drury Development Addition.
Next item is a resolution approving this issue is got another little quirk that has come up, so we're going to set this aside tonight. The next item is a motion to allow the temporary closure of 10th Street for the Rolla High School graduation.
We've had a request from the high school to close 10th Street on Friday, May 14th for the Rolla High School graduation. They are planning an outdoor graduation. This was done last year, worked out well. We detoured the traffic around the area, and as soon as the graduation ceremonies are open, we open it back up to traffic. They've also got a rain day time of Sunday, May 16th, from either at 2:30 or at 7, depending on the weather. As I said, we provide the traffic control for the event, and we are recommending approval. I think
Is someone here from school
the
district?
principal's here.
Okay, oh, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. We're just, as Steve said, we'd like to request you guys to approve shutting off the 10th Street just during our service ceremony. It was really helpful last year, cut down on the distraction, cut down on just the interference of everything, and so that's what we're requesting again today, because that was really helpful. Made it a nice ceremony last year.
Any questions? If not, is there a, Carol?
Not really a question, just a point that I think it's a great idea, and it's only for a couple of hours, so I think it's great for the kids.
Yeah, last year we shut it down just right at a few minutes before the ceremony, and as soon as the ceremony was over, opened it back up. We took no calls at the school about it. I don't think Steve did either, and so it was really beneficial.
It's a big day for those kids, and it was a tough year, so we wish them the best. If there's no more question, is there a motion to allow for the temporary closure?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Carolyn made the motion, Ann has the second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is approved. Next item is a motion to allow the temporary closure of Pine Street for the Dine on Pine event.
Yeah, we've had a request from the Raleigh Area Chamber of Commerce to close Pine Street on Saturday, June 12th from 6 to 10. It's called their Dine on Pine event. I think it's taken place of their annual banquets that they usually have at the beginning of the year. They will be closing Pine Street from 10th to 12th, and I think we'll be able to go into that area. Streets will be closed at noon on Saturday, June 12th, and to set up for the event. And after the event, about midnight, they should be able to open it back up. The event does have insurance from our ACC, Raleigh Area Chamber of Commerce. Their caterer, Strophanese, would be providing the liquor license for the event, and they've hired a police officer for security for the event as well. And staff would be providing the detours and signage, and would recommend approval for the event. I think members of the chamber are here tonight.
Stevie or Amy, would you like to add to that?
I also have an overhead that shows the area, if that would be helpful.
The only thing I would like to add is it is a private event. This is for our chamber members, so it is a pre-ticketed event. It's not for walk-up. It's not open to the public. You have to have a ticket to the event to attend. And again, we are asking to close 10th through 12th, but 10th through 11th is a buffer block. We're going to be eating on Pine Street, so we just kind of wanted a safety block to break up traffic right there. So nothing would be happening between 10th and 11th. Everything would be happening between 11th and 12th. We also have contacted all of the businesses in that area that would be affected by a street closure, and everybody is fine with it. Nobody has had any objections. A lot of them, or some of them, close around 12 or 1 o'clock anyways, so it would be it should be okay.
Thank you. Any questions for Steve or Stevie?
I just have a question. So we would be shutting off the public roads for a private event? Is invitation only?
Yeah,
okay.
yes.
Question as well. Does this event have a safety plan like the other events from the previous year?
Nothing formally written, but we're still in the planning stages of it. So,
Okay.
I mean, we can take all of that into consideration.
If there's no other question, is there a motion to allow for the temporary closure?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ann, where was the second?
Whoever, I did it, but whatever.
Dan. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is approved. Hope for good weather.
Thank you. Yes.
Next section is claims and/or fiscal transactions. First item is a motion to award a bid for a tractor for the Rolla National Airport.
Now, this is a little bit outside the box.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
Shift to your right.
Yep. That better? Sorry. Beginning in FY 2020, the Street Capital Improvement Fund began subsidizing the airport fund. In 2020, it was $150,000, and this year is $175,000. And this amount comprises about a third of the total cost of the airport operations. Other funding sources for the airport are MoDOT grants, one of which is an entitlement that they get every year, mainly to be used for airport infrastructure improvements. We have an agricultural lease where there's a guy that has a cattle operation and haying operation that leases the land that we're not using for airport operations. Hangar and ground leases, several T hangars and hangars are rented on a monthly basis, and then there's ground leases for privately owned hangars. And then fuel sales makes up another good portion of the income. The water and sewer service for the airport is provided by Public Works itself. Since we were providing a good portion of the operations cost at the airport, we decided to kind of take a look and see if there were some ways we could increase revenue or decrease maintenance cost at the airport. And the obvious low-hanging fruit was the equipment that they have to do the mowing at the airport is very old. It's old hand-me-down equipment from either Parks or Public Works. And we think we can decrease their amount by about $20,000 in annual cost by doing two things: update the used equipment, get them something that's more reliable and that's not broke down all the time, and increase the amount of ground that's used by a rotary cutter or a brush hog to do the mowing. And much of the ground that they're mowing, they're way too much park-like. It's out in the middle of the fields, and they're mowing it with their lawnmowers. So we think we can increase the productivity by mowing it less and with larger equipment. It is an unbudgeted item that we're asking for tonight, but also as part of this whole process, we were out in the airport doing an evaluation for a shooting range for the police department, and we noticed that there was a tremendous amount of timber in the timbered area that's on the very corner of the airport. And I thought at least $50,000 worth. It turned out it was only about $46,000, but that was approved at the last meeting. They pay up front, so we have the funds to cover this used tractor I'm recommending. I went to a local dealer here in Rolla and started looking for a used tractor. They have a pretty good network throughout the entire state. And the stipulations that I absolutely had to have a front bucket and 100 horsepower to be able to do what they need to be doing at the airport. And we found a 2015 John Deere 51E. The dealership was going to allow us a trade-in on our equipment. Page is, here we go. We have the purchase price of the tractor was $37,500. The trade-in value of a 1987 John Deere that we had was $7,500, and the trade-in on a 1992 Ford tractor was $9,000, making the difference $21,000 difference in cost. We're also evaluating some other things at the airport, but those recommendations will be coming later. The obvious thing was to update the mowing equipment and try to get a better handle on that operation. So we are recommending, well, I might note that I also, it's very difficult to bid used equipment. You have to just kind of look at it, evaluate it. We checked out the prices, the hours and whatnot on the tractor and compared it with what was online on tractorhouse.com, which is a pretty well known national website for both for used equipment. And we checked out all the prices for both the purchase and the trade-in and found those to be competitive with what was available nationwide. So our recommendation is to move to purchase the utility tractor with a trade-in, the Heritage Tractor in Rolla, Missouri, for a net cost of $21,000. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I have exhibits in your packet that shows the tractor that we're wanting to purchase, our existing equipment, and a map that shows the areas that are mowed by us and by the agricultural lease.
So for new council persons, historically, so the airport, I hate to quite put it this way, but it always loses money. And it's been subsidized for as long as I can remember. And it used to be part of the general fund. So as you'll learn in the ensuing weeks, the general fund is the city's general checking account, if you will, whereas many of the other funds that we have dedicated income streams. So Public Works, for instance, has two portions of sales tax dedicated for capital improvements. The general fund has been stressed, and it will be getting stressed even further because 70% of that particular fund goes to public safety, which is police, fire, and emergency services. So a few years back, the airport was transferred to Public Works. Airport is a public work, and much of what we do there is capital improvements, so it matches up pretty well with their funding sources. So I think it's great, Steve, that you guys are thinking outside the box and finding ways to have cost savings. Any questions, Ann?
Yeah, I want to tell you, I think it was a real neat example of the thoughtfulness of using the resources that we have, rubbing those pennies together from the sale of trees, you know, making this deal. You know, everything can't be orchestrated, you know, but to be able to work in motion, I think is an excellent example of the department heads we have and the staff utilizing the resources to the best of our ability on tight budget.
Thank you. Jody?
I got a couple, Steve. One, would we still have like a lawnmower to mow around the buildings there?
Yeah, we're still on keep mowers.
Okay. And then secondly, just sort of a procedural, is it okay for us to do a deal with one bidder, or are we required to go out for 3 or more bids, or how does that work?
As long as we refer, in this case, it was, we went to a local dealership and then looked online for used equipment. And so we were able to do both verify the value of the two surplus tractors as well as this used tractor. I would point out, just with the council members, on Roman numeral 7A6, so the last page of this, you'll see the two airport tractors that we have out there. And again, as Steve said, these were hand-me-downs from other departments. The top one, the 92 Ford, is too large for the airport purposes, and the bottom one, the 87 John Deere, is too small for our purposes. And so we're really replacing two inferior tractors for one that is going to be more appropriate for the size of the operation out there.
What will we be doing? Oh, I'm sorry.
Lester?
Steve, I'm trying to make this real simple for me. So the budget, we subsidized it in 150 in 2020, and 2021 was 175. Okay, right?
Right.
And this thing is, we're saying that we sold some timber and we've already been paid up front $46,000. And we're thinking if we buy this, we can reduce the yearly cost by $20,000.
Correct.
And it's going to cost us $21,000 to purchase.
Correct.
Just line, okay.
Yeah, so one's a capital expense, the other is an operating expense. So the 20,000, I think what they're trying to do is match up the capital expense with the newfound money.
Okay.
And then the operating expense savings would be ongoing.
So that, the savings is, well, I'm
Is
not-
ongoing.
It'll be
I
every
was gonna
year.
say something, I'm not gonna even say that.
Should be every year.
Yeah.
It may be ambitious, but our goal is to have the operations of the airport be self-supporting, and we'll provide the capital costs. I don't think we'll ever get to the point where they'll be able to provide their own capital. But I would like to try to get it to the point where at least the ag leases and the fuel sales and the rent on the teenagers and stuff supports the operations on a daily basis.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a philosophical change.
So is that typically what we do, 150 to kind of subsidize? That's, I mean, we got 2 years, but that's generally the ballpark figure.
It's been that, well, it used to be in the general fund, now it's in.
Yeah, okay, so we're
pretty consistent.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Steve.
What are we gonna do with the rest of these mowers?
I think the plan is to ultimately, we have 6 mowers. We're using some for parts and pieces and keeping them going. The plan's going to be to surplus 4 of those and retain 2. And then get those into a replacement program.
Carolyn?
I understand Lister's thought process, but the way I'm looking at it is we generated from the trees this 46,000. We have all these other trade-ins. We're using half of that money. It's pretty much free.
I don't think we think of anything as free, but but we had an offsetting revenue that
But
more than
it's a
covered
good
it.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think under the circumstances, it's a really good deal. And the trees, of course.
I think the
make a
reality, I would think of them separately for this reason. Even if you didn't sell the trees, this would pass muster on an ROI basis.
First year, it makes it pay for itself.
Yes, well, second year in this case. So we would be looking at a 2022 fiscal year where the savings would occur. So it just so happens we've got a tree sale, but even apart from that, this would make sense to do.
Can't you harvest again in what is it, 15, 20 years? If
Yeah, we'll probably still have the mowers.
Yeah. We last harvested that timber 40 years ago.
40?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was overdue.
Okay, if there's no other questions, is there a motion to award the bid for the tractor?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jody, second by Deanne. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The next item is a motion to accept the emergency purchase of an HVAC system.
Good evening. Okay, I need to explain why we had to do this, all right? Rolla Police Department purchased our current building that we're in 1992. The building was gutted and it was rebuilt for our department, and we moved in 1994. Now, when we purchased that building, it was a Woolworths and a JCPenney. But there were several other businesses in that building at the time. There was an electronics store, natural gas, offices, a barber shop, and a TV station. The building itself, the main building that we originally purchased, we put a huge HVAC unit up on the ceiling, or up on the roof. That's the one that we just recently replaced. Well, there are 6 other air conditioning units that cover the rest of the building that we did not originally purchase. Those units are getting very old. Matter of fact, the one that we just had to do an emergency replacement on was from 1994 is when that one was put up there. It went out the day after the last council meeting, and if you all remember, that's when the weather started getting a little warm. That particular unit covered our entire detective bureau and 2 captains' offices, and by the end of the day, it was over 80 degrees in those offices. We tried using fans, we tried everything we could to cool them off, and it just didn't work. So I didn't have time to actually go out and do bids. That's about a 2 to 3 week process. But what I did do was I contacted 2 local businesses, and I contacted a business out of St. Louis that won the award to put the 18 units inside the building that we have. And out of those bids, the cheapest bid came in from Hartley's Climate Control here in Rolla, to the cost of $11,769 to replace the unit up on the roof. That covers that part of our building. Being it was an emergency, I got permission from City Hall to just go ahead and order that unit. Have it. Matter of fact, they're starting to work on that. They had to actually order it. They're starting to work on that tomorrow. Of course, they're putting an air conditioning in when it's snowing.
It's gonna snow.
But that was the emergency. It would have just taken too long to go through all the process of putting that air conditioning unit on. And just to let you know, of the units on the roof, that was the newest one. So this may happen again before we know. We've got some more. We got older units up there from 93, and one was 2000. We put in 2005, so that one should still be good for a while.
Chief, refresh my memory. I thought when we did the budget for this year, I thought there was money put in there as a placeholder for HVAC.
It was. That was for the big 30-ton unit that we put that covers 90% of our building.
Okay, all right.
And we replaced that.
Okay, that is replaced.
But like I said, in addition to that, because when we originally bought the building, there were other businesses. There's 6 more 2-ton units spread throughout the roof, and one of those is the one that went out that covers our detective bureau and 2 captain's offices.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I actually looked when we had the 30-ton unit put up, what it would cost to make that unit cover the entire building, and it was well over $150,000 to redo all the ductwork. Then it we would have had to get a unit twice as expensive, too. So we just went ahead with the one we had.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Jody?
So, would it be worth it maybe to have Hartley's, while they're up there replacing that, take a look at the other 5 that are up there and kind of give us an idea of how long they're going to last before we need to start budgeting?
Well, we asked, we had the service that we use come out and look at the air conditioner that was broken, and he said it was just beyond repair. And we had him look at all the other ones, and he said, well, right now they're working. He said, we can't tell you when they're going to go out, when they're not going to go out.
Okay.
Could we even still get the coolant for those?
Pardon me?
Can we still get the coolant for those?
Well, when you have to, no, we can. It's extremely expensive to get that. With the new units, we've got the new coolant.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other questions for Chief? If not, is there a motion to accept the emergency purchase?
Make a motion?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Citizen communication. Is there any citizen that would like to speak to the city council? Yes, Johnny.
It's me again. Johnny Jones again, Ward 2. First off, I want to say congratulations for all of you that got on board. I hope that you learned from the ones that got outed on why they got outed, and the ones that are still on board. What I gotta say is you got 1 year to fix what you did in last year. Otherwise, the same fate might happen to you. Raleigh citizens are ready to outspeak, and they proved it by this past election. So just putting on notice on that. Now, one concern I do have, and I do know that the Raleigh Police Department are very thin, but something that needs to be addressed. My son goes to the middle school. I live right down the road from the junior high, but at the connection of SOST and Form, we need a police presence there for about, when the schools gets out, for about 10-15 minutes. There is, and I called the Raleigh department, and I know they're doing the best they can. But the thing is, though, there are people who's going across there. There was one time I was coming down from having the middle school the middle school behind me, heading home to Brookridge, crossing over Soast and Forum there. Was passing over Forum. And there are people who's trying to either pick up their kids or trying to go home, heading towards 72, but they're blocking the intersection. all right? And there was one time I saw a vehicle almost hit the crossing guard because they're in such a big hurry to get over there and head up towards like 72 or whatever. And they're blocking the intersection. There was one time I sat there through 3 stoplights because people trying to get across there and they just blocked the intersection. They have no regards for the little kids that are walking across there. None. All they're worried about is hurrying to get across that intersection. What I'm asking is try to work out something with the police department where there's a cop standing there, or at least a cop car there so they can see that. And they're going to say, oh, okay, wait a minute, I need to back up, I need to wait. But I can see one of these kids getting hit. And it's something that needs to be addressed. I know there's a lot of other things that need to be addressed too, but this is one thing that I feel that needs to be addressed soon, because I can just see a kid getting hit because these vehicles are blocking these intersections. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, where are the crossing guards for the middle school and the junior high? I'm assuming there's crossing guards.
There is actually one at that intersection. That's the busiest intersection that we have, and we actually had a meeting on that thing today because somebody sent us a picture, and it might have been you, where a car was literally up against the crossing guard. So I had a meeting with the SROs, and we're going to try to address that problem.
Okay. So the crossing guards have some sort of legal authority, or they don't have legal authority?
They have no legal authority.
No.
I mean, they go out there with a stop sign, and, you know, we rely on the people to stop for them, but at that intersection, we do try to get an SRO there as often as we can to be there, but, you know, if the SROs are on a call or something, they're not able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Question?
I was just going to ask about the VIPs, if they were able to.
The what?
If a VIP would be able to do.
The only problem with the VIPs is they're not in uniform.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be another person standing out there.
Right.
You know, it's the uniform is what's going to make the difference. So
Right.
we're trying to get like I said, the SROs. Between 3 of them, I think we can get one there.
Yeah,
And
it is a problem.
if we have them there enough, and the people that are picking up their kids see them there enough, hopefully they're going to learn.
Right.
We hope. If not, they may have to take some kind of enforcement action then.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Any other citizen comments? Yes.
I'm Robert Miller, 2101 Vienna Road, and I'm just coming up to speak on, well, it's actually more of a question. On the COVID-19 emergency declaration, what threshold has to be met in order for that declaration to be lifted? Because I know that over the last year there's been a lot of concern about variants and everything, and especially all over the country. But this declaration, it seems, you know, a year into this, you know, we think that, you know, maybe something would become of COVID as a pandemic. But my question is there any certain threshold that has to be met by, like, the World Health Organization, the CDC, or any of that regard?
I'm just curious, before I try and answer it, what is your objection to the existing emergency ordinance?
It's not an objection, it's just a general question.
Okay.
It's just one thing that comes to mind and really don't think about too much.
Okay.
So.
I don't know that we have, nor have we had this past year, a set of black and white metrics. So ever since COVID came, we have consulted with various entities, because none of the entities in town is an island. So we met once a week, now we meet once every 2 weeks with someone from the county health department, somebody from the school district, MS&T doctor, the hospital, and so on and so forth. And the idea is to come up with some consensus as to what we should do. And although we didn't have specific metrics in terms of a number, we did have some consensus on particular trends, and that would necessitate various actions. So if if our cases were like this or like this, that's obviously the do-nothing strategy. If they went up a bit but they were manageable, then that's probably nothing more than keeping an eye on them, which is what we did to probably early November, in which case the graph went like this, and that necessitated a different action. And then within 6 weeks or so, the graph plummeted, so we took action on there to take away the restrictions, if you will. So that's been our methodology. What are the trends doing? And then initially, not too much relevant now, was what is the capacity of the hospital in particular to treat the potential cases? And when they said they were getting concerned, then we took action. It's well within manageable levels now. Our numbers are took a little bit of a blip here recently, but they're quite manageable. So we don't envision doing anything more with restrictions, and the few that we have left, which are principally City Hall, really is the only ones left. I think we're going to look at it in the next week or two.
Great, thank you.
So, thank you. Any other citizen comments?
Mayor Magnet, City Council, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Gail Daniel, and I am a family that has been affected by the opiate epidemic that our country has been in for 7-8 years. In 2020, our country had more deaths due to overdose than has been recorded. 2019, it slowed down a little bit. 2017-18, we had about 72,000. In 2020, there was over 80,000 deaths due to overdose, and we didn't hear about any of them. And so I'm a mother on a mission. I lost my daughter going on 5 years ago to an opiate heroin overdose, and we started a ministry called SAVE, and we put on heroin awareness and prevention seminars. And we did not have one last year, but the year before we were graced by the presence of our mayor, and I hope you enjoyed the seminar.
Very informative.
It was wonderful. We had Ron Smith, the fire department chief, and Chief Hagan from the Raleigh Police Department speak, and this year Chief Hagan will be speaking again, along with we have an incredible lineup of speakers this year at our event. The event is going to be on Saturday, May 15th, 1 p.m. I have some flyers. I didn't realize there were so many of you. Welcome to the new City Council, and I think this is a great way for you to induct yourself into being a part of this community. One thing that I've learned in dealing with drug addiction, and my husband and I, we built a sober living home on our property for women in recovery from drug addiction, and just with working with addicts, you can do all the rehab. There's a lot of things that we try to do to combat this epidemic and this crisis that we're in, but I am convinced that there's one way and there's one way only to fight this epidemic and this crisis. And I believe that it starts from the ground up. And I believe that strong communities, strong churches, and strong families are the only way we're going to fight this. And so I invite all of you to come, be a part, invite somebody. I think that you will not be disappointed at the seminar. We've got an incredible lineup of speakers. We've got about a dozen resource tables that are going to be available to people. We have Krista Harmon. She is out of Cuba, Missouri, and she too is a mother on a mission. And several years ago, they bought Krista it's like a camper, and she's turned it into it's a mobile bedroom, and it's a teenager's bedroom, and it's to inform parents on where their teenagers may be hiding drugs, and the kind of devices that you can go on Amazon and buy lipstick containers. There really aren't lipstick containers, but you can open them up and find, hide drugs in them. And so she's got her teenager's bedroom that's going to be in the parking lot. she's going to be speaking, and just love to have you all. I thank you for your time. I'm going to pass these out if it's okay, Mayor.
Yes, it's May 15th. Is it at the church
Saturday,
north of
yes,
Kingdom
it
Pew
is. It is at 10730 County Road 2040, and that is Rolla. And it's right across from King Kia, right, almost exactly across the street up on the hill. And you know, they're about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes long. The community is pulled together just incredibly. Rolla, St. James, Phelps County, with providing food, providing soda, providing, you know, the grocery stores. You know, they provide water and chips. We've got Papa John's Pizza that's donating a bunch of pizzas. We've got Pepsi and Coca-Cola that are donating all of our drinks. We've got Phelps County Bank this year donated. We're doing a scholarship in memory of my daughter this year. And we were going to pay for the scholarship, my husband and I were, because it was something we wanted to start last year, but with that, you know, what went on, we didn't do it. And so we were determined that we were going to do the scholarship this year. And my daughter graduated from John F. Hodge in St. James. And so in memory of her, we're going to have a writing essay contest. The counselor at the college is going to set up a attendance table at the seminar so that she can keep track of any of the students, and it's for any students. So if you know any high school students that are wanting to win $1,000, they have to do a writing contest. It's a writing contest, a 500-word essay, and what you got out of this seminar. And there's going to be a lot of education, so there will be a lot to write about. And so we're just excited. Phelps County Bank donated $500. State Farm Insurance donated $250, and my ex-husband and myself are covering, you know, the rest of the money. So that's a blessing. Just, you know, it's a way to make her life matter, and her life did matter. And any questions?
I just want to say, I think this is absolutely amazing, and I'll attend. My husband and I will come
I'm so
and
glad.
attend, so thank you
Wonderful.
for doing this. This is
I look
amazing.
forward to seeing you. Yes, thank you.
Gail, if you want to just leave those with, yeah, I was going to say,
Oh, wonderful.
we'll pass those out.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And before I go, I'm not sure if y'all can see, but this is just a little collage that I had put together for y'all to see, you know, my daughter. Her name was Veronica.
She's beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll see you then, Gail. Any other citizen comments?
My name is James Corey, live at 414 Bill Avenue, Ward 4. I've got a complaint. When you got a city employee that does not obey by our ordinances. He leaves the trash cans out. Our trash day's on Thursday mornings. If I remember right, the ordinance says it's got to be off the curb by 24 hours. I believe that's on Friday morning, not Sunday, not Monday. His front yard is trashed out with plastic bottles and paper. When the wind blows, it comes into my yard. And I live across the street. Second thing is, there's a city ordinance.
If I cannot, just so I understand. Is that person leaving the empty trash receptacle those days?
Yes, trash cans.
Empty?
Empty, out on the curb.
Okay.
You don't pull them back until Sunday, Monday, and our trash day's on Thursday. He's got a wrecked vehicle underneath of his carport. It's been there for over a year. And he's a city employee. And I've already been to the recycle center about him. He started to obey it. Now he's not obeying it no more. Again, he thinks he can do what he wants to do. Ordinance says that wrecked vehicle has to be covered up, am I correct?
I don't think that's true. I think if it's
It's
on
under
property-
carport. I don't know. We'll have to look at it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's, with that looking like it is, he rents from Troy Duncan. Then on weekends, he's a Parks and Recs guy. He'll go get one of our big riding lawnmowers, put it in the back end of his truck and go mow his yard with it. I don't think that's right. We spend $3,000 on a riding lawnmower. You're gonna mow your yard, come over and mow mine.
Yeah, we've
I'm 70
looked into
years
that.
old.
We've looked into that. We found no evidence of that. But if you've got some evidence contrary, let us know that.
I'll take a picture of it next time, because he lives right across the street.
Yeah.
424 Hutchinson, Ward 4. That's all I got
Okay,
to say.
Brady, containers left too long. Is that your shop or is that Chief's shop?
So I just wanted to give you a heads up.
I'm not familiar with that specific address, but yes, the ordinance says the containers are to be pulled back within 24 hours of the collection day. Now, it's very possible if your collection day, your neighborhood is Thursday, if our inspector goes by there on Friday and the container's there, he's still technically legal. He doesn't come around on the weekend, so if it's still out there on Monday, then he would be.
Give a citation.
Not a citation on first notice, just a notice.
Well, this, you cited me once when I worked for the city. You cited my neighbor week after she moved into her house next door.
For a cart.
Trash cans being out on the curb.
Yeah, there's been no citations given, just a 5-day notice. The police department would have to give a citation. We haven't done that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other citizens that would like to speak? If not, moving on to mayor or city council comments. We have 4 on the schedule, and I have two or three late additions. So the first item is the council selection of mayor pro tem. There's a statute that governs this that would require all of you, this is not an appointed position, so it would require all of you to make that decision. We would open the floor to nominations. If there's more than one nomination, we will distribute pieces of paper to have that as a private election. Did I miss something?
No, I wanted to make a motion. I was just
Okay.
when you get to that part. I wanted the floor when you got to that part.
You got the floor, Lister.
Yeah, I've learned. At first, it does make a difference.
Yes, it does.
I move the councilwoman.
Hold on.
I had the floor. I do not have the floor.
No, I took it back. But I'll give it back to you. Yeah, you know, I think in a bigger picture, look, this is a new council, and we don't want to presume that all of you know certain things as we go through, so we're going to just take step backs each and every time. So, John, why don't you talk about the position?
Yeah, mayor pro tem is established in both state statutes and our city code. It basically is a person the next in authority to assume the responsibility of presiding over council action and city business in the absence of the mayor. So it is a person who would have some familiarity with local government and would preside here. An interesting side note, because this question surfaced recently, if mayor pro tem has gone from a council seat to the mayor's seat and there is a vote, he or she votes on the ordinance. If there were a tie, 6-6, they still then exercise their vote to break the tie. Unusual circumstance in Missouri law, but that's available. But generally, it's the person that fills in the absence of the mayor.
They get 2 votes in case they're not.
Yeah.
Okay, Lister, you got the floor.
Okay. I move that Councilwoman Joel Eberly be serve as the Rolla Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, are there,
Second that.
okay, are there any other nominations? Jody, speak now or forever hold your peace, as they say.
I'd like to ask how Jody feels about it.
Are you accepting? the nomination?
I will. I never expected to be in this situation. I thought Matt Krell did an excellent job as our mayor pro tem, and so this is sort of a surprising turn of events. But for those of you who don't know me, I have 38 years of service with the federal government, so I've participated in and helped facilitate a lot of meetings. From a few people to hundreds of people, and some of those with some very contentious issues at hand. So I feel like I probably have the experience that would allow me to run a city council meeting, and I would do that to the best of my ability to serve the citizens of Rolla.
Thank you. If there's no other...
Each April, this position comes up in council.
Don't you have any faith in it?
No, I'm just saying, for the group.
Yeah.
But thank you. It's always nice to be recognized by your peers, Jody. The next three are all related, and I'm going to ask John in a second to give some of you an idea of what the Industrial Development Authority does. These have been 6-year appointments. However, in thinking about it a little bit, John has pointed out that for many boards and commissions, there's a value in having staggered terms so that there's not a big block of turnover all at once. So these would normally be 6-year terms, but by working with them, we're going to break them up to stagger them and then have them staggered on an ongoing basis. So John, can you share a little bit about the Industrial Development Authority?
Sure. Again, statutorily authorized. You're going to hear that a lot because everything that we are empowered to do comes from the granted of authority by the state legislature. Going back for decades now, the industrial development authorities were often the economic development arm of the city, but established as a separate political subdivision, though board seats appointed by the city council. In smaller communities, in some cases very small communities, the IDAs are still very active and will initiate bond issues for all kinds of projects, industrial projects. They may manage industrial parks, but that's really sort of the old way of approaching it, and cities over the last 20 or 30 years have moved into a much more of a partnership, community-based economic development program, which is much more what Rolla has with the Raleigh Regional Economic Commission, where we pull all these resources together to do our economic development. Nevertheless, there is a role for the IDA in that they can issue bonds, and they have in Rolla for things like the bonds for the TDD, the Move Rolla Transportation Development District. Bonds were issued through the IDA. The West Side Marketplace, those bonds were issued through the IDA. And they issue those bonds, and they just go out on the market for purchase, and there's no liability to either the IDA or the City Council to pay the indebtedness of those. We've also used the IDA on Chapter 100 bonds on things like Brewer Science and traditionally, I forgot the Briggs and Stratton facility. We've used the IDA bonds to do pathways, to do some of the nursing homes. Again, that was more traditional in the 70s and 80s. So it's an important group. We only meet once or twice a year at the most. In fact, we're meeting tomorrow night at 4 o'clock if anyone wants to sit in on the IDA meeting. It's just a chance to sort of look at the next year's officers and to reauthorize our certification with the state. So an important group, but in the context of the city of Rolla, it is not the driver of economic development as it might be in some very, very small communities, but still an important resource for us to have.
Yeah, it's not the driver, so I would consider it more the vehicle, because you do, for these projects, have to issue bonds, and that's the vehicle that you would do that in. And they're generally backed by revenue sources, so they're not general obligations bonds like the city would have.
There are 5 members that are on there, and typically they would be 6-year terms. So these folks that, on the mayor's recommendation tonight, we are proposing those to be staggered so we can get back into a little bit more spacing of these positions as they come up.
So with that, the first item is my request to reappoint Terry Harris for a term expiring in 2024.
Did you say 5 years?
No, that would be 3. So is there a motion?
Make a motion to appoint Terry.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The second one would be my request to reappoint Zach Robinson to the Industrial Development Authority, and that would be a 5-year term. I'm sorry, 4-year term.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The next one would be a motion to reappoint Maria Bancroft, who I believe is chairman right now, isn't
Yes.
she? Yeah, she's currently chairman for a 6-year term.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The next item,
Okay, I have one more thing.
Yeah.
Lister just mentioned to me, does the IDA have authority to issue bonds without council approval? And they actually do in certain cases, but in most of significant economic development projects, those are coming back before the city council anyway, often done in closed session, but it's often a partnership, and in some isolated cases, the council has to empower them to be able to do it. So it just depends on the size of the project and the scope of the bonds.
yeah, there's generally other things than issuing the bonds that come into play, whether they're planning and zoning issues or something like that. Arbor Day is the end of this month. In 2019, the city, through a lot of hard work, is Floyd here today? No. Yep. Good. Where's Floyd? Floyd, what are you doing over there? So, through a lot of chairs. Through a lot of hard work, the trees, the city has a tremendous amount of trees between the parks and RMU property. And in 2019, we achieved the designation of being a certified tree city. So Arbor Day is something that we want to pay attention to for our citizens. So we are going to issue an Arbor Day proclamation that I would like to read. Whereas the city of Raleigh, Missouri was proudly recognized as a tree city in July 2019. One of the requirements of Tree City USA is to annually recognize Arbor Day in the city. And whereas in 1872, through the efforts of J. Sterling Morton, Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. Trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. Trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. Trees, whenever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. The city offers various programs to promote the planting of location-appropriate trees, including the Reforest Rolla program, the Riparian Reforestation, and the Acorn Memorial Tree Planting Program. In partnership with Tree City USA and Missouri Department of Conservation, the city received a grant in 2020 to conduct a standard inventory analysis and management plan. The report focused on the health and value of more than 3,800 trees on public property in the city of Rolla that adds substantially to the quality of our life. Now therefore, I, Louis Magnus, Mayor of the City of Rolla, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 30th, Arbor Day. Floyd, would you like to add a little bit more, maybe just in a couple of minutes, give the council a sense of Tree City designation, the inventory that we've recently conducted, and those kind of things?
So we have to renew for Tree City every year, and there are 4 basic tasks that we have to, criteria that we have to meet on an annual basis. And the Arbor Day Proclamation is one of those points. One of the outreaches of after we were named Tree City USA was the next step in the tree grant, which was to do trim, the trim grant actually is what it's called, through the Department of Conservation. And the whole purpose of that was identify our urban tree canopy and how best to manage that in terms of the safety and health, not only of the trees, but also for the residents in our facilities. So that targeted every park that we have, as well as major street trees and thoroughfares here in town, with the analysis of those and a rating of that. And as evidenced today, a couple of things that we've done as part of that. If you go to RaleighMoParks.org, you'll see that we have a special tab in there about urban forestry, and on that we have everything that the city is doing relative to trees. And during our research for all this, as the mayor alluded, we've been doing a lot of these initiatives for quite some time, so this is not a new process. The Reforest Rolla is a program administered primarily through Public Works, and they've been doing that since, I think, '92. The Acorn Memorial program, where you can memorialize a loved one on our trails or in our parks, has been ongoing since the early 2000s. So we have quite a few initiatives going on, but on that urban forestry page on our website, you'll find out a whole lot more information. And one further note on our inventory, that is also up, available for the public to look. So as I talked to a lady today, she was asking about, well, how do I find out what trees are along the trail in Green Acres Park? On that site, you can do that. It will take you, and you just have to, it's a fairly simple process, take you whichever park or which part of the trail you want to look at. It will show you the trees that are all along that, and you can even zero in on a particular location. So that's kind of a quick overview of all the things that we have going on tree-wise. And just to wrap up, I'd say my department just planted 17 trees just here in the last 2 weeks, and some of those were replacement trees for ones that are dying, but some were new plantings as well. So
Thank
you
you,
have to
Floyd.
answer any questions.
Good job.
Thank you.
Terry?
I have a question. I don't know if you know this, but can people just cut down as many or whatever trees they want on their private property?
Well,
yes.
The short answer is
Yeah,
yes.
short answer.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are some communities that will actually regulate trees on private property, and if you take one down, you got to replace it.
But not Rolla.
Not Rolla, and really not anywhere in outstate Missouri. You'll see that in some of the big urban, suburban communities, but typically not outstate Missouri.
We do have a list on our website also of recommended tree species for people to plant, and we get calls about that periodically too.
Like any good lawyer, I was just told there are exceptions to rules. So if you're living in an area that perhaps have a homeowners association or something like that, there could be restrictions.
Okay.
Thank you, Floyd. Lister?
Do you know of any place in town that is allowing or giving out free trees for us to plant to encourage them, I know that we used to do that in Southeast Missouri in Charleston. You used to give out for the day Agua Zeo Festival. They would give out trees. I didn't know if you knew of anything.
I know Arbor Day Foundation will send you tree seedlings just to do their survey. That's one. I'm not familiar with anything too local, but I received 12 of those myself and planted those. So.
Yeah, I thought south of here there's a huge tree farm. I don't know why I want to say it was associated with the PALs, but you can buy seedlings. You used to be able to. Who's been around a while?
The Licking.
Oh,
the
Forest
Licking,
Service.
yeah, the
Conservation
Licking,
Department.
Missouri Department of Conservation Nursery is
Yeah.
where you can get free
Correct.
seedlings.
Conservation Department.
It's George White Nursery.
Yep. Yeah, okay, that's it, thank you. And I think that's half hour, 40 minutes from here or something like that?
Yeah, and they have if you get the Missouri Department of Conservation magazine, usually in the early spring, late winter, they'll have an inset that has like an order form, and they have different bundles of trees that you can purchase and get
Yeah,
that.
and they're just a nominal value. You'll spend more on gas going down there than you will in buying the trees. Thank you, Floyd. April also has Earth Day. Brady, you want to talk about Earth Day a little bit?
Yes, sir. April 22nd is National Earth Day, which is kind of when we take time out to try to step a little lighter on the earth and take extra steps to do what we can to preserve the environment. Recycling obviously is a big one. Floyd mentioned that they'd recently planted 17 trees in Raleigh, and consequently it takes 17 trees to produce 1 ton of paper. In Rolla, we will typically recycle at our recycling center 2,000 tons of paper annually. So if somebody can do the math on that real quick, that's a lot of trees. And we're just recovering a small portion of what goes in the waste stream. So I think it's really important that everybody be aware of what small actions that you do yourself can make a big difference in the big picture of things. So typically we would partner with S&T to have an on-campus Earth Day celebration, but last year as well as this year, the pandemic has put the kibosh on that. So do what you can right at home.
Thank you, Brady.
Thank you.
Any other comments by city council?
Yeah, I have a
Ann?
few things I'd like to say. We're on the cusp of a city election. I just wanted to express my concern about, I've not been able to ignore some of the things that our state government is talking about. The discontinuing, there's some talk about discontinuing petition drives, the ability for voters in the state to get petitions, for advancing Medicaid expansion, this Medicaid expansion mandate, and one other is the proposed increase in potential restrictions to voting. But the one that got me, thinking was with respect to our election is that 13 days ago, the citizens of Rolla elected officials to council, okay? And tonight we engaged in a peaceful transaction of power, so to speak. But our legislature, our state legislature, is discussing a potential for the elimination of these municipal elections throughout the state. There's a cost factor, I know. There's a low turnout factor that is being investigated. But I expressed my concern to Senator Brown and to Representative Mahy, and been dialoguing with them a bit, that I believe now more than ever people want to be heard. They want to know who's in local government. They want to know the people that are doing the things for their community that will affect them personally. And I asked them to please assure that this local line of communication would be allowed to continue and to grow. I think eliminating municipal elections could be devastating for our local communities. Think about it. A lot of people don't feel like they're represented much anyway on a national or a state level, okay? Locally and nationally, and I guess statewide too, there's a certain degree of interaction, but as a candidate myself in the past, gone door to door, worked with other people going door to door, I know that the integration and being able to interact with constituents is really valuable. City council is unrelated to party affiliation, so with these municipal elections, you don't have the visceral, emotional, politically charged content that you might have. I'd hate to see that mixed up with, and have our local election stuff mixed up. Could you imagine a ballot, for president, blah, 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 some constitutional things, and then at the very end, city council, and a park proposition, or a school tax. I just think, even though we may underrepresent ourselves at the polls, unfortunately, I think it would be a bombarding of people's intellect and stamina emotionally to put up with the national, statewide political advertising for a year, and then have to take a door knock, sometime in September or October if we get put onto the national election cycle. So I would really, get acquainted with some of the issues on the state and get in touch with your councilman. Mr. Mahy didn't think that, he thought it was the underperformance, so showing up at the polls that was the factor that they were discussing. But I think it could really jeopardize our process. So I would just ask you to communicate, ask your congresspeople, pay attention, give them your opinion, and let's keep this community open and vibrant and talking to each other. Thank you.
Thank you. And John and I were talking earlier this week about this, and elected officials, ourselves included, we want feedback from citizens, just like Don Mayhew wants. As council persons, though, you have to keep in mind when you are responding and giving those opinions you really need to do it on behalf of yourself as an individual and not as a city council person. And the reason for that is your opinion may conflict with your peers and the body here. So if there are things that are important to you that you feel we should be responding to our representatives, then let's get it on the agenda and talk about it so that as a group, as a city, official city, we can make that respond. Oftentimes, John will also be able to give you the MML, which is Missouri Municipal League, who has those experts that really think about these things, to the nth degree. So we certainly want to encourage people to provide feedback to their elected officials. Just be cognizant of where that fine line is, us as individuals. And that applies to me too. So if I'm going to give an opinion, it's my opinion. It's not me speaking on behalf of the city. I would only do that after consulting with you folks.
Okay.
Any other city council comments? Yes, Caroline.
Personally, I was thrilled with the results of this election. Welcome, everybody. And I hope you enjoy your carrot cake, and not every meeting will be this short. So,
Comments to the good of the order. I have one, and bear with me because I'm going to get on a soapbox here. Yesterday I was reading the news, and I found a prominent newscaster make a statement that more white people should die so police reform could happen. And then there was a congresswoman that publicly stated that the people in Minnesota should be more confrontational with police to enact change. I don't know how any of you feel, but I think those are appalling statements. And what struck me is the evening before, I was at the Rolla Police Department awards banquet. And when you sit there, I don't know if these people think that a policeman every day wakes up and say, who could we run, chase down, and arrest? But that couldn't be further from the truth. And as I sat there thinking about the night before, and all of the real stories that are told about our officers, how many lives they have saved, how many times a week do they give Narcan to save somebody? A story of an officer, I'm assuming it's a homeless person that he saw on the street that didn't have shoes. He didn't just drive by. He worked his butt off to personally find this person a pair of shoes. How many times do they have people that are threatened or potential suicide? So when you look at the whole realm of what police do, it's saving lives, it's taking care of them. And I think that is so troubling of what I find when these supposedly super smart experts are making these kind of comments. So what I would encourage you, and if you have kids in middle school or junior high school, I'm going to suggest you get to know a cop. These people are just like us. They're professionals. They care about this community. Get to know them as individuals, and don't buy into this you-know-what that's coming out of these various circumstances. So, again, pardon me for getting on a soapbox, but we have an outstanding police department. So, thank you very much for that. Any other comments for the good of the order?
I agree with Maxine Waters, and the reason why is because our immigration numbers that we're taking in for refugees across the country, those numbers are up because of the pushback that we have against our federal representatives. When you push back against people who are mistreating you or mistreating people that you care about, you do need to make that clear to them. And we had nonviolent protests in Rolla in the last year. And that is the kind of pushback that Maxine Waters said to do. She did not say to kill people. So I agree with Maxine Waters. If people aren't representing you, you should push back. We clearly saw that happen in Rolla recently, and that's what you need to do. Make yourself heard when you're not being treated correctly.
I would actually like to say, for Ward 2, I've actually been working on starting a neighborhood watch. So if there's anyone from Ward 2 that would like to be a part of that, they can contact me. The police department was very helpful on helping me get that figured out, so thanks.
I also received contact from Officer Tony Louth in Ward 3 with a packet for Neighborhood Watch. That's something that I've had a conversation with numerous individuals. I think that's an important component. We need to take care of our own and make sure that we stand up for one another. Just thinking of the gentleman here about this trash receptacle tonight. Sometimes my wife and I'll never tell you when, but occasionally we leave for the weekend and our trash receptacle is out. And our neighbor and I, we work together to help each other. If he's gone, I take his, and vice versa. So I think it's important, that component of our community working together to take care of one another is an important component, and I hope to help with that. in my
Right, it's
opinion.
all about citizens and the council and the police department all working together as a
Correct.
community.
Correct.
Any other comments for the good of the order? If not, there are no closed session. Oh, I do have one other thing. Normally, at the change of each council, John and I will spend a little time putting together a book and sort of have a little bit of a meet and greet on how it works well and how council persons interface with us at City Hall. In 28 years, I would say this is probably the youngest in terms of tenure council that I think the city ever had. So there's a lot of things to learn. So we're working on a schedule that's going to help you get up to speed as fast as possible. So some of these will include a tour of the city facilities, which you get to see all of these things and what drives them. We will include in there some work that either Lance or Carolyn will talk about in terms of sunshine law, what's allowed, what's not allowed. We'll have a session on budgets. So we'll start that with really an agenda or an itinerary that's more geared to the new council people. But as we finish those, we're going to add a lot more subjects, such as planning and zoning and all of those kind of more complicated things. So I would envision us taking maybe 3-4 months or so to get through all of these. But our goal is to get you really up that learning curve as fast as we possibly can. We will have in, I'm going to say May, probably at any time, I would tell you that this is a very, very difficult workshop, and this will be one dealing with the general fund. So it's really important that you understand the city's budget and what drives it. So we'll probably have that as one of the first classes, for lack of a better word. So again, there's no closed session. So with that, meeting adjourned. No.